Good morning, everybody. Joaquin Tiandafilide speaking. I'm glad to be here again. Welcome once again to our first Latin conference, second day. Okay. This is a virtual event connecting teachers around Latin America and the entire world. Um, we want to thank you for choosing to be with us on your weekend on a Saturday. And we're excited to have you connect from Australia, from Chile, from Colombia, from Puerto Rico. Apologies if I forget to mention other countries that might be with us. You may well remind me through the chat if I'm forgetting to mention your name, the name of your country. And we need to understand how students learn and process memory. And this requires going beyond traditional models and accepting that each brain is unique, okay, thanks to one's singular life experiences. I'd like to welcome Francisca Kelly from Buku Education. Francisca, are you there?
Yes, hello everybody. Good morning. Good morning, Joaquin. Good morning to all the wonderful participants today. Welcome to our day 2 of our brain-based EFL Teaching to Children conference. And I would like to say, Joaquin, that today is an amazing day, right? It is an amazing morning. We have 3 interesting topics for our teachers. We will start with making learning memorable, and this is how to work with long-term memory. Great, right? Then we have Jessica Urra from Concepcion talking about gamification. Her talk is called From Playing to Gamification. And then we will end up right before lunchtime with great mindfulness with Monica from Argentina. So it's going to be, I think there's a great balance on this morning's topics. So we can learn and live relaxed with our mindfulness before we go to our Saturday lunch. And apart from that, I would like to say that we have some news from Asociación Chilena de Neuroaprendizaje and Buku Education, and we have decided to do a raffle for you guys. So we want to give out a booklet on how to work with the executive function skills with children that has been developed by Asociación Chilena de Neuroaprendizaje, and also one of the Buku Education books, okay? And what you have to do is to post in any of the social media that you use, maybe Facebook, maybe Instagram, post a picture of whatever you want. It's totally free. We really want to focus on your creativity. Maybe an activity that you will do with your students during the week, maybe of you studying at today's or yesterday's conference, whatever you want. And please tag Comunidad Neuroeducas, which is Asociación Chilena de Neuroaprendizaje, and Buku Education. And we will have the raffle on Thursday's live session with Comunidad Neuroeducas.
That sounds fantastic. That sounds fantastic. So do not miss out every conference during the morning, and do not leave until the very end, because there might be more surprises coming. Okay. So I'd like to start sharing my screen. Hopefully you can see it there. Yes. And well, we'll get started then. Is that all right, Francisca?
Yes, let's go.
Great. Okay. So, well, yesterday we were devoting some of our time together with Francisca. We were dealing with the topic of growth mindset. Okay. And today we want to do something which is complementary to that, okay? And that has to do with empowering long-term memory when teaching children. Now, I'd like to suggest to have a little game For those of you who want to dare turn cameras on, this is just for brave people. When Francisca and I met earlier this morning, we said, oh man, come on, second day, it's a Saturday morning, but we can do it. Let's turn our cameras on. So if you feel like activating your cameras, feel free to do it or not. But I'd like to start by playing this little game with you, the hands up letters, okay? So you may know this game, you may not, and this comes from a collection of ideas here at Comunidad Neuroeducas. We call it screens with purpose. Sometimes we struggle to have well, especially adolescents and pre-adolescents, they struggle to turn on their cameras. But this is an activity that will help them more naturally turn cameras on, all right? So what we have to do is the following. You will mute yourselves so that at home, where you are, you can say in an out loud manner, you will pronounce the letters in blue, okay, while you're mute. But at the same time, on your screen, with your camera, more than screen, the camera, you should be raising a specific hand in turns. Whenever you see the white dot below, raise your left hand. Whenever you see the black dot, raise your right hand. Is that clear? White, left hand. Black, right hand. What to do when you see both dots? Both hands up. Okay? No matter what happens, do not stop until the very end. All right? So this is how you would proceed with the students as well. So this is like, you know, having them turn cameras on with a purpose, with an intention to play a little game. And after you've done it, first line modeling, you can turn off your camera as a teacher, as I'm going to do now, or you can have one group, one part of the students, one group of the students do it with cameras on, and the other group watching, and vice versa. All right, so ready, steady, go. I want to see there. Let's go together. A, B. You have to do it at the same time with me, right? C, D, E. Okay, that was easier because Joaquin was kind of showing his camera, but what I want you to do now, you will do it on your own, okay? You will do it on your own. I just need to find a way to turn off my camera here. Okay, there. Okay, let's continue. F, G, H, I, J. Come on, great. You can do it. K, L, M, N, O. That was great. Fantastic. Okay, so this is turning cameras on with a specific purpose. All right, so I hope that was meaningful to you, and I used it just to, you know, to get your attention with me. And I'd like to do now something different. I have a question for you. You will have to start using your cell phones now. Okay, if you have your cell phones handy, I have a question I want to share with you. And we will have to go to, I need to find this, where to find my different screens here. For some reason, I don't seem to find my, let me see here. I need to find how to share, how to share my, I have my Mentimeter, but I don't seem to find it. So let me try and find, oh, there it is. Okay, so what I want you to do is, please, you have to go to www.menti.com and use the code 4314927 to access the question. Okay? Please, you have to access that code. And the question is, what worries you the most when thinking of students' learning and memory? Well, there might be other options, but I thought of 6. What you have to do is establish a ranking there. Establish your own ranking. Okay? What is something that worries you? I've included 6 options, and I'd like to see how this graph changes. So we have a number of different people in the class, in this session today, and I'd like to have you in your cell phone establish the ranking. Oh, we can see there how it's working. Okay, it's definitely working there. Great, I can see that. Can you also see the screen?
Yes.
So, all right, so apparently motivating students is something that worries teachers a lot. Motivating is taking the lead, and then in a second row, in a second place, appropriate activities to practice took the third place, while struggling second and third place. This is like a race, like a car race. Making learning fun took the second place. I can see that. Okay, then appropriate activities to practice. Today we're going to be discussing what does appropriate really mean to the brain. Okay, making learning fun, presenting information clearly, we'll also get it there. Good testing techniques. Well, if we use good practice activities, appropriate practice activities, then we should be using appropriate testing techniques. And last but not least, lots of review sessions. This is also interesting, all right? So I'll just capture that picture. Okay, you may want to continue, but I will just capture the picture and I'll be adding it to our presentation. I always like to take what your opinion was, and I will probably include it in one of the slides. Okay, there, I'm going to just leave it there. Okay, there. All right. And now from here, I'd like to take you into a little revision of what we want to discuss today. Okay. Okay, you can see my slides again, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that was the activity we did. That was the question we asked, and that was your answer. Yes, that was how we answered. So notice, motivating students was top 1, then appropriate activities to practice, and in the third place, making learning fun. So it's interesting to see a balance there between what you consider to be appropriate and at the same time not boring, yeah? Which ends up being an interesting balance. Now from here, I'd like to quickly review with the question, what do we know about memory formation? Okay, a few things I want to say here. Well, in the first place, we need to consider what we call stimuli. One particular stimulus could be something as simple as saying hello, or turning your camera on and smiling. That's a stimulus. Or the game we just played would be another stimulus. Okay, and then the stimulus is faced against the brain, the student's brain. So the stimulus is any information we provide. The brain starts processing that information, okay? Now notice the 2 main memories we can think of. One we call working memory. Okay, we use working memory all the time to manipulate new information as we are learning something new. Okay, and then we have long-term memory. Okay, from working memory towards long-term memory, there are there's like a highway with two ways. One way which is encoding, taking in information, and the other one retrieval. Okay, let's say decoding in a way, retrieval or decoding. Okay, now most teachers tend to worry a lot about what students remember before a test or 24 hours after we have taught something, 24 hours, a week after, a month after, okay, whenever you give them a test or a quiz. And we need to start considering both working memory and long-term memory. So a few things I want to say about both types of memory. So, all right, notice long-term memory is the one that is formed 24 hours or after we have studied something. Okay, if you were wondering when can we start thinking of long-term memory, well, science considers that 24 hours after something, a learning situation has occurred, we start forming long-term memory. Other two more characteristics about long-term memory: it's a stable, very stable memory in time, and this is incredible, it has no limits. Okay, we can probably conduct a little search in this group. The same way we learn a second language, we can learn a third and a fourth and a fifth language. There are no limits to long-term memory. Whereas working memory is what we consider to be within a few minutes up to 40 minutes. Okay, this is working memory. All right. Working memory is very unstable. That means if something occurred right now in the middle of this conference, like, I mean, fingers crossed it doesn't happen, but there's like a big shake here in Chile and we, just run out, we will probably not remember whatever Joaquin was talking about because short-term memory is very unstable. Okay, and it is also limited. There are a number of items that we can take in within 40 minutes. Okay, what is in between, we're not going to be discussing today, is what we call an intermediate memory. Okay, intermediate memory. I hope that was clear enough. And at the same, I want to be short, brief. Now, this is interesting. You have probably referred to your students sometimes, or someone in particular, as a slow learner. Have we? Or a fast learner? Well, today we're going to learn a couple of interesting distinctions, make a couple of distinctions. I'm coming back to the same graph I used yesterday. Don't you have different graphs, Joaquin? Well, on purpose, I chose the same one because from the same chart, we can learn together a lot of different things. It's no secret that some people learn a particular item faster or slower than others. Now, notice the two arrows here. Remember, we were discussing about self-concept and the cognitive belief system yesterday. Today, we're devoting our time to working memory versus long-term memory and the two ways. Okay, notice we are discussing here the rate of learning. Okay, the amount of time it takes someone to learn cognitive information with sufficient confidence that it will be consolidated in long-term memory is called the rate of learning. This can vary within the same individual because it can be affected by motivation, emotional mood, degree of focus, and the context in which the learning occurs. Now, that is the arrow going one direction. What happens? This is something very new in education. There is another arrow coming out, okay? And that is the rate of retrieval, okay? The rate of retrieval. Now, retrieving a memory from long-term storage can sometimes be complicated and time-consuming. And this is where teachers should pay specific attention. One curious finding in recent years is that encoding information into memory involves the left hemisphere more than the right one. And retrieval involves the right hemisphere more than the left one. This way, both processes seem to activate separate neural systems. In other words, one student in your classroom these days could be fast at storing information, but not necessarily good at retrieving it. This is interesting, right? Now, a couple of things I want to mention in relation to factors affecting retrieval. How on earth, or why is it possible that sometimes my students cannot remember the information I'm trying to recall with them in class? I've taught this several times. 4 factors I want to mention before we move on to Francisca's practical area of application. 4 factors affecting retrieval. That means recalling information I have taught them. Okay? Number 1, adequacy of the cues. Some cues may be better to stimulate the retrieval of a memory. For example, a specific sound you chose well, a well-chosen picture, a good word, or keywords that you chose because experience is teaching you what cues to choose. Some other cues may turn ambiguous. Have you ever experimented that in your classes? Like, this picture is not working, or this example is not working well. Factor number 2, mood of the retriever. And no surprise for you, we discussed this in detail yesterday. Studies show that people in a sad mood more easily remember negative experiences, while those in a happy mood tend to recall nice experiences. So what kind of mood am I promoting in my classes? Not that I can change the student's mood, but I can definitely influence it. You are probably in early stages of life, some of the most powerful influencers in the students' lives. Tip number 3, factor number 3, the context of the retrieval. Accurate recall will more probably take place if the context during retrieval is very similar to the context of a period during which it was learned. How come, Joaquin? Well, same time of the day, same location, same seat, same room, same type of exercises. I'm not improvising with my learners. Same pictures. Oh, it sounds familiar to them. Same instructional language. You are planning your language, exposing them to the same language. Does this make sense to you? And now factor number 4, system of storage. Declarative memories. What is declarative memories? We discussed that yesterday. Verbal language gets stored across brain structures and are connected to the child's interests, the child's past experiences. This makes it crucial that the learner associates new information with familiar topics. That means, as someone said 100 years ago, go from the familiar to the unfamiliar. Okay? 4 factors I want to leave with you here. And now, 3 techniques that Maria Francisca is going to deal with in detail. 3 techniques for promoting good, efficient retrieval. Several of the factors I just mentioned are sometimes in the hands of the teacher, sometimes not. But there are a few techniques you can surely be in control of. You can use them in order to promote faster retrieval. And some of them are recall, wait time, and chunking. Okay? And I want to briefly mention recall for then move on to examples. Every time we recall information from long-term storage in working memory, we relearn it. Therefore, teachers should use classroom strategies that encourage students to recall previously learned information so they will relearn it. That's That's what learning is all about. The main strategy is called active participation, keeping the mind of the student consistently focused on what is being learned or recalled through implicit and explicit activities. Okay? Implicit activities involve the teacher asking the students to recall previously learned information and to process it in some way. For example, think of and be prepared to use it in a sentence, etc., etc. After sufficient wait time, explicit activities can be used to determine the quality of the previous implicit activities. For example, making a question, give clear and specific directions as to a task they need to complete, etc., etc. All right, and now from here, we'll have now Francisca take over.
Thank you, Joaquin. Okay, so the three techniques that Joaquin mentioned were recall, wait time, and chunking. Okay, we're going to start with recall. And I'm going to leave three, I know it says four, but I prefer to only focus on three ways in which we can do this in class. Number one, we'll be talking about eliciting and how to elicit. Okay, for the people who studied English pedagogy, the word eliciting is very common. It means just to get things from students, get information from students. We're going to see it deeper in the following slides. Then the second one, challenging your students' memory. Remember that challenging, setting challenges and doing games that are fun and challenging are always welcome for children's participation, right, and motivation. And then showing realia. So let's start with eliciting. Okay, when we want to elicit information from students, what we want to do is ask explicit questions for students to recall the content or apply the skills they learned. So let's say last class, we learned about clothes and how to say, and maybe that was our content lesson, right? We learned how to call clothes in English. And then I come the next lesson and I start asking specific questions. Do you remember what's the name of this? They raise their hands and they could say, that's a sweater. All right. And what color is this sweater? Maybe you didn't talk about colors last class, but you're recalling even previous information so they can retrieve it, use it again. And just as Joaquin says, when we bring it to our working memory, we are establishing a stronger path for the long-term memory. So, okay, it's not my objective to talk about colors today, but it doesn't matter. I can retrieve it, bring it to their minds, and I am helping them not to forget and to put it in the long-term memory. Although I'm going to focus on clothes, okay? Some examples of questions I can use when I elicit are things like, do you remember what this is? Who can tell me the name of this? What shape is this? What shape is this? Do you remember what happened to the birds? Remember we read this story last class? What happened to the birds? Okay, and you can ask specific questions. For primary students, for the teachers here who are teaching from first grade up, maybe a good idea is, okay, last class we studied feelings. So I asked my students, hey, how are you guys feeling today in the morning? So I'm actually asking them to apply what they learned last class. And I'm not just asking by memory, right? By heart, like what face is this or what face is this? I'm asking them to apply that information they learned last class today by eliciting, asking questions. Because normally this question comes right after, if your students don't have the level of English to answer a question like, how are you feeling today? What you can do is have a sentence frame. So on a piece of paper or on a cardboard or on the board, you write, I leave a space. My, I leave a space, was, I leave a space in the morning. So you can say, how were your family members feeling in the morning? Miss, I don't know how to say, okay, let's look at the sentence frame. It says, who do you want to talk about? Mommy, daddy, brother, sister, baby, grandma? Okay, my grandma how was she feeling? She was feeling happy. Okay, my grandma was feeling happy or was happy in the morning. And you have this sentence frame that helps them produce the English language, because it is not easy, right? It's not easy. And with very young students, it's actually very difficult for them to produce the language because they don't know how to say things. So this is a great idea, the use of sentence frames with only some gaps that they can fill in with the information you want them to work on and you want them to learn, for them to produce language and not to be interrupting you all the time. Miss, how do you say mom? Miss, how do you say, okay, because that usually happens a lot. And also, you will be building autonomy because you can tell them, okay, you don't have to all tell me, you can tell your peers. Tell your elbow partner, the person sitting next to you. Now it's going to be like 1.5 meters away, but still you can have them having conversations among their peers, and then only some of them, volunteers maybe, tell the rest of the class, how is your family feeling today? For preschool, an idea that I would like to present is, for example, okay, we were talking about colors last class. And so today, instead of just asking them, I could get them moving, just like Janina said yesterday. Okay, so guys, maybe if we are an online session or in a live session, who can, in 5 seconds, go get something orange? Go, 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 go. I'm going to count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and children can come back. Hey, teacher, I have something orange. I found something orange. Oh, this candle is orange. All right, great job. Maybe if you're in the class, they can move around and find things, pencils, pieces of papers, things on posters. I remember I had a very big class. It was 45 students, and I still asked them to look around and point at something orange or point at something yellow. So you bring back all this information you saw the previous lesson with fun activities. Then there is a great tip for eliciting that will help calm the brain and lower anxiety in the rest of the students. Whenever you ask an explicit question, for example, okay, who remembers? What was the title of this story? Who remembers? Instead of having children just go very quickly, oh, me, raising their hands, as we want to give them time. Just like Joaquin said yesterday, we want all our students to have the time to think and not feel stressed out because everybody's putting their hands up and I don't know what to say yet. So I can tell students, guys, when you're ready, don't raise your hand. You can just go like this in front of you. Just go like this. So you give a sense of calm, of quiet, to respect every student's pace of thinking, pace of learning, pace of being ready with the answer. Okay, that's a great tip I learned from an amazing teacher that I had a couple of years ago. Okay, then the next one I talked about was the memory challenge, remember? So what can we do? Just bring challenge to the classroom. Just like Janina said yesterday, we don't need the expensive material, or we don't need just that poster, and I don't have that poster. Let's use our imagination, okay? So maybe I can just do it with my voice and with my face, my smile, and my hands. So, okay, I'm going to stop the sentences, challenging students to continue the idea. So guys, yesterday we were reading this book, and there's this animal that is a Yes, a bird. Very good, very good. And these birds like to go and sit on the... Yes, it starts with clothes. Very good. And you challenge them. You keep them engaged to produce language or to think in English, okay? Apart from that way of challenging students, you can start the lesson saying something like, yesterday we talked about animals, right? You set the mood. Okay, animals. I go to animals in my brain. All right. And there was this animal that was color gray. It has a huge nose. It has a big, big nose. And it was lost. Do you remember? Yes, it's a hippo. So you can challenge students in giving them information for them to guess, all right? Guessing games. They are very effective as well. Playing hangman for older students. Okay, I have here one word that we saw yesterday. Give me letters. Let's see if you can guess it. And a great idea I used with even older students was playing hangman, not with one word, but maybe with a phrase or a sentence. And instead of saying only letters, they could say whole words, okay? That was very fun for pre-teens, all right? And tip number 3, sing and dance to the songs you sang last class. So last class, we talked about animals and we sang the old lady, the old lady who swallowed a fly. And I could just say, good morning, students. Hello. Let's start singing a song. There was an old lady who swallowed a fly. Zzz. I don't know why she swallowed a fly. Perhaps she'll die. There was an old lady who swallowed a spider. And you start singing the song that you sang last class. Singing, including movement, using music, will help your students learning, will help you with getting their motivation, and you are bringing back, you're recalling the information that you taught last class, okay? And the last one was showing realia, right? So you can just show it and say, whoop, look who's here today. Who remembers what happened to baby hippo yesterday? What happened to him? Oh, yes, he got lost. And who did we ask for help? Just show realia. Or you can say, ooh, what's this? Yes, it's a house. And who lived in the house in the story we read yesterday? Yes, this little man. What was the name of this little man? And you can help your recalling, you can help yourself as a teacher to bring the motivation to produce language and to recall the information, showing realia. Realia is just a name under education for concrete material things, okay? By the way, this is from Brain Toys, these Imanix from Brain Toys, and the books, and of course, are from Buco Education. So apart from realia, like games and books like this, you can use posters and just show a poster or pictures. What do you remember about last class? Let's always try to make it engaging instead of having that typical, maybe boring teacher some of us had when we were young. Okay, what do you remember from the picture? Who can raise their hands? Let's just make it more interesting. Guys, shh, I have something important. Who can really think of 3 things you see in this picture? Go. And things like this, giving them time, or setting the challenge, changing your tones of voice, are going to make it more engaging. Getting close to the camera if you are teaching online. Guys, just be a clown, maybe be ridiculous. At the beginning of my teaching experience, I felt so embarrassed to do these things. At the beginning of Buco Education, I felt so embarrassed to take my own pictures. And now it was a process, and now I really don't care. I don't look in the picture, I don't look good in the video, I don't care. It's engaging for students, and that's the most important thing, right? And of course, puppets and things they can touch or they can relate to, seeing all the time with you, are also very engaging. Okay, I'm done with my practical tips, Joaquin. We can go on to wait time. That's the second one.
Great. Yeah. So you were just mentioning 3 specific ideas, and probably more, of how to put recall into practice: eliciting, memory challenge, and showing realia. Now we will go into wait time, the second big phenomenon that takes place in our brains, in the students' brains, whenever we implement this in order to empower the formation of memories. Using wait time to increase student participation and mental processing. Now, what is wait time? It's the period of teacher silence that follows the posing of a question, a challenge, or a problem before the first student is called on for a response. Okay? Now, this is interesting. Studies have shown that high school teachers had an average of just over 1 second of wait time. Elementary school teachers and preschool teachers waited in the studies an average of 3 seconds. So 1 to 3 seconds of wait time. Okay, 1 to 3 seconds is hardly enough for slow retrievers. Remember, we said at the beginning of the presentation, we have one type of speed for encoding information, okay, for memorizing things. And then we have another rate for remembering, recalling the information. So especially for slow retrievers, slow learners, if we prefer, okay, especially for them, 1 to 3 seconds might be little, okay. Many of these students may have a correct answer to your question, to the challenge, to the example you're giving, but they might need more time to decode what you're trying to suggest. So the problem when the teacher does not use enough wait time is that slow retrievers do not get enough time to locate the answer in the long-term storage and retrieve it into working memory. Then, as soon as the teacher calls on the first student, the remaining students stop the retrieval process and lose the opportunity to relearn the information. This is interesting. So, this might be, as I said, too short to retrieve information and relearn it. So something I want to mention here in relation to how about changing my habits? How about, making it a longer wait time? The following things happened in the experiments conducted by the group, the neuroscience laboratory. Whenever you increase to 5 seconds or more, a number of things happen. Number one, the length and quality of students' response increased. Okay? Number two, there was a greater participation by slower learners. Number three, students used more evidence to support inferences. And number four, there were more higher order responses. So more students participating, especially slow retrievers. And number two, the quality of their participation also improved. Now, the results occurred at all grade levels. This is not only for older students, it will happen also with younger learners. The interesting thing is that studies also showed that there were positive changes in the behavior of the teachers who consistently used longer wait times. Number one, they started using more higher order questioning. Number two, they demonstrated greater flexibility in evaluating responses. And number three, they improved their expectations for the performance of slower learners. So that's all good news. It's not that difficult to apply wait time. And now Francisca will probably give us a couple of practical examples. You are muted. You're muted.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Okay. Yes, so for wait time, 2 simple ways to do this in class are, first, thinking routines, okay? So there's a thinking routine I enjoy a lot as a teacher that goes like this. First, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go with with the first one that I was okay. Thinking routines, sorry. Okay, thinking routines and cultural respect. Those are the 2 things we're going to see how to apply good wait time. All right, let's go, Joaquin. Now, thinking routines. There are 3 I would like to promote or suggest for you to use. Number 1 is called See, Think, Wonder. Okay, what you do with this thinking routine is that first you ask students to only look, only see. All right. Guys, boys and girls, what do you see? What do you see? And students should say only what they see and not what they think it is, okay? I see some colors. I see some plastic. All right, very good. What do you think this is? I think it's a house, or I think it's a barn, or I think it's a church, okay? We don't know that. So first, it's very objective, and then what we think. And then what you wonder. What do you wonder about this? And then you tell them you're going to think about it, but you're not going to share until later. So you give them space and time for them all to think, and then later you say, okay, now let's share. So you gave wait time for all your students. The second thinking routine is I used to think, now I think. So guys, what do you think this story is about? And then you read the story, and by the end of the story, you can ask them, okay, what did you used to think at the beginning of the lesson? And what do you think now? What's the difference? Think about it for 1 minute, and then we share. Again, you set the time for them to think. If one of them is ready, he won't even raise his or her hand. Maybe they will at the beginning, but you let them know that that is total quiet time until, okay, ding, ding, ding. It's time to share. Let's see what you thought about. So again, you give them all wait time to think. And number 3 is think, pair, share. And this was the one I was talking about at the beginning. It's one of my favorite ones. Because first, you ask a question, okay? For example, where do you think Baby Hippo is? Because he's lost. We read this story and Baby Hippo got lost. Where do you think he is? You're going to think on your own without saying anything. Shh. Think, think, think in silence. Okay. I give them a couple of seconds. Now, pair share. Tell the student sitting next to you what you think, okay? This pair share works with lessons that are when we are physically together, right? They share, so then you also lower anxiety because all of them get to speak and say what they have in their minds. If not, you will have a lot of students just fighting over me, right? Okay, tell your classmates what you think. Okay, tell your partner. You talk about it, and now let's share it with the whole class. Who's a volunteer? Who wants to say something? So there are 2 very positive things about this. First is that you give them all the opportunity to think and the time to think. Then you give them all the opportunity to speak. Even if you have 35 students, they all have the opportunity to speak because you ask them to talk to the person sitting next to them. And then share. When you already had the time to think about something, maybe to write down your ideas or to draw your ideas for the younger ones, you will feel much more comfortable, much more empowered to share with the rest of the class. Okay, because you already know what the other thinks. You already know that everybody thought about it. You already have it on paper, so they will be more motivated to share it if we compare it to only asking a question and then that person having the courage to raise his or her hand and give out the answer when they don't know if they are on the right path, okay? Okay, that about thinking routines. Then, culture of respect. Of course, now that crianza positiva and positive discipline and positive upbringing is very famous right now, luckily it's very famous right now, we can set a culture of respect in our classes, okay, in our lessons. Usually some teachers normally they ask, yeah, but I can't do that because the class is very disorganized and they don't behave well. Well, the thing is, guys, that if you as a teacher connect with that group of students, you can do it. The secret is connecting with those students, just like we saw yesterday on the growth mindset talk, okay? If we connect with the students, we can, even if they are very, very, a group of disrespectful students, we can still connect and start setting boundaries and start setting a culture of respect, okay? If you want to look at tips, you can Google strategies or tools for positive discipline. They have 52 tools. They are free online. They are also on Pinterest. I have them all organized on Pinterest if you want to follow me and just take a look at them. And you will see step by step what to do to start building this culture of respect and dignity for all students, okay? And for all teachers, for all human beings in general, okay? Now, let's remember, I have this picture here. It's in Spanish. It means all children bloom in different ways. And it's okay, we can't compare them, okay? Sometimes one of them may be slower, but it's because he is thinking about many other things, okay? It's not that he's just slower, period. Maybe he's more creative. Maybe he thought about something else and then came back. Okay, so we have to respect because we don't know what is going on in their minds. So having this said, when we want to build the culture of respect, let's set the example first, respecting their time and giving them the wait time they need. That about positive discipline. And now for B, don't say anything yet. Let's think. That is a phrase that can help you as teachers. Okay, so where do you think the giraffe is now in this story? Because he went to the other family. So what do you think happened? Don't say anything yet. Shh. Let's think. And something that you also, that was very challenging for me, is to respect this awkward or uncomfortable silence, right? Let's just enjoy it. And let's think, guys, for 10 seconds, let's think. And there's silence, yes, and it doesn't matter. Let's make it normal. Let's normalize this silence so we can learn that sometimes being calm, being quiet, and being silent is necessary to think and to concentrate, right? And the same thing, because I was reading some of the questions that are great. We're going to answer them in detail at the end of the presentation. Some of the things that appeared in the questions was about motivation, okay? And motivation, when we want them to participate, also it is key to give them the time to participate. So getting comfortable with these times of silence will be also motivating. At the beginning will be, oh, nobody's saying anything, I'm so nervous. But then you will be relaxed and they will get used to it and know that it's wait time for everybody to think, okay?
Great, great. Thank you very much, Francisca. And it's interesting that you're mentioning, or you're coming up with words that express or show the way we teachers think. You several times said slower students, which is okay. We think like that. Now, from now on, we need to remember that there is one rate for encoding and one rate for retrieving. It is with students who are slower at retrieval that we need to put these strategies into practice with. Now, we won't do it only with them, but we will do it with everybody. And so students will find our classes friendlier for their brains. We've just been through recall, we've been reviewing wait time, and now we'll get into number 3, which is chunking. Okay, now chunking, using chunking to enhance retention. What is chunking? Chunking is the process whereby the brain perceives several items of information as one item. Okay, words are a common example of chunks. For example, if I show you the word elephant, it's composed of 8 letters, but the brain perceives them as one item of information. Okay, so the more items we can put in a chunk, the more information we can process in working memory at one time and remember all at that time. Remember one characteristic we gave about working memory? It's limited as opposed to long-term memory, which is not limited, unlimited. Okay, so since working memory is limited and we don't want to overload it, then we have to use chunking. Okay, chunking is a learned skill. Therefore, we can teach it. We can teach it to young brains. All right. Now, 2 types of chunking. The first one is called pattern chunking. Pattern chunking. Okay. Finding patterns in the material to be retained. Okay. For example, trying to remember 9 new words in a new lesson is far more difficult than trying to remember them as part of a story. The human brain is a specialist in trying to identify, create, and remember patterns. So this will make information retrieval easier when we can associate new information to something we already know. Learning, remember, is related to a person's past experience. We've said that in several moments during the conference. Now, this is an experiment I want to do with you. Hope it works. I will show you a number, well, a number and different digits or symbols. Now, I will show them on my slide for a few seconds, and then I'll remove that. It's a string of 13 bits of information. We'll call it like that, a string of 13 bits of information, including numbers and symbols, okay? What I'll do is I'll remove that after a few seconds, and you should try and remember it, okay? And see if you can write it down. If you've got a pen and paper next to you, please try to jot it down. Ready, steady, go. Try to remember. Don't write it down right now until I remove it. All right. Please write down whatever you remember. Kind of difficult, huh? It's difficult. It was hard, wasn't it? Why? Basically, I did not associate the bits of information. But what I'm doing now is I've taken the same string of information, the 13 bits of information, I've connected them into an experience that I went through in my life, let's say in the last few months. Apologies, because I've obviously culturally associated the information to the experience I have been through in Chile. So for Chilean participants, I will present you with the string of information again, and hopefully it makes sense to you. I'll show it to you again. This time, look at it for a few seconds. I'll remove it and try to write it down. Okay, ready, steady, go. Okay, try to remember it and write it down. So hopefully it wasn't difficult, at least for Chilean participants. So this is a good example of pattern chunking and how the brain can more easily digest information. Hope it was clear and hope the experiment worked. Francisca.
Yes. Okay, more examples on chunking. How can we apply this in our lessons? First, Joaquin talked about pattern chunking, okay? So we have two tips: reading books or listening to stories, and repeating chunks with rhythm or music. Let's go to the first one. Reading books or listening to stories. You will remember the whole story, and in the story there may be some participants. Okay, so yes, remember the story, what happened? So Nick and Dan started playing so many games. They were playing video games, and then they went to play basketball, remember? And then yeah, they went to play hockey. Yes, instead of just saying, what were the three words we learned yesterday? Basketball, hockey, and video games, right? When we have them together because they make sense, it will be easier to remember. That's why stories are so powerful to remember, because you as a teacher can include all the details you want and they will remember the whole story, and it will be easier for them to remember the little items in the story, right? Okay, then repeating chunks with rhythm or music. So for this, I'm going to sing a song and move my hands with this song that is very entertaining for students, that it's called Five Little Monkeys. So it goes like this for the people who don't know. I'm going to just sing half of it. Five little monkeys jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped his head. Mama called the doctor and the doctor said, no more monkeys jumping on the bed. Four little monkeys jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped his head. Mama called the doctor and the doctor said, no more monkeys jumping on the bed. And the same thing for three, for two, for one monkeys. And when there's only one monkey, one little monkey jumping on the bed, he fell down and bumped his head. Mama called the doctor and the doctor said, put those monkeys right to bed. Okay, so as they will sing this song probably more than once in the lesson, and they will start learning it, they will be challenged to do the movement with their hands and fingers, to remember the lyrics, to repeat the rhythm. The thing is that the next class, when we are maybe taking a look at parts of the house, and one student says, Miss, how do you say cama? Which is bed in English, right? Instead of just giving them out the answer, you could even say, oh, let's remember, five little monkeys jumping on the, and they would say, bed. Yes, because they remember the whole chunk. They will remember that song. They will remember the rhythm. They will remember the music, and it will be easier for them to say bed instead of just repeating isolated vocabulary, right? And I saw, Joaquin, you went like this. You approve of this, right?
Yes. Yeah, very good examples. Should I move on?
Yes, please.
Right. Okay. Francisca was just exemplifying the first type of chunking. Okay. Now we're going for the second type of chunking, which is categorical chunking. Categorical chunking. What is it? Well, basically, it's when the learner or the teacher establishes some way to categorize the information we want them to learn, to help classify large amounts of information. Look at the picture I'm showing. That's a lot, okay? So the younger the brain, the more critical this type of exercise, promoting categorical chunking. We teach the students to look at the information while looking for criteria that will group complex material into simpler categories. So as to mention a few, helping them categorize things like advantages and disadvantages, similarities and differences, taxonomies or classes of, arrays, not always logical, but they serve a purpose, all right? And so, Francisca, you will exemplify those.
Yes, so I'm going to give 2 examples. First, when we talk about animals, normally in schools, they separate farm animals and animals you can have at home, etc. A way that I thought, that I saw, I didn't invent it, that I saw that was very useful was, okay, guys, we have all these animals. Maybe we can put them, which of these animals lives on land? And they can draw, or they could paste, glue, or maybe if you have a big poster and you have some animals, they can just locate them on land. Which of these animals can fly and they could live in the sky? Okay, let's put them up there in the sky on the poster. And which of them swim and could live in water? Let's put those animals in the water. So then when you want them to remember, when you want to recall the information, or they ask, teacher, I don't know what animal lives in water. I don't remember. Okay, let's try to recall. Do you remember the poster? Let's look at the poster. The poster in the blue area, in the water. What animals do you remember were in the blue area? So this chunking of all these animals that were categorized in the ocean or on land or in the sky will help them remember and recall the information. Okay, second example. Joaquin, there we go. For maybe when we are talking about food or likes and dislikes, we can have, okay, let's make these 2 ideas. What foods do you like? Yes, like. And what foods do you dislike? Okay, let's put them in the list, or let's put the pictures in these 2 ways, and then they will remember. Even here, we are talking about connection to the emotional area, right? To their feelings, what they prefer, what they like, what they don't like. So again, you can say, yeah, I don't remember the name of that dish. Oh, remember, you put it on the like. You liked it. Ah, that's right. What did I put on the like section? And then you can help them with chunking about likes and dislikes. And the third one would be this Venn diagram, in which we can also chunk the same idea about animals, but instead of where they live, okay, what animals can swim and what animals can walk? And then we can put the pictures inside. Okay, look, this animal, could you go to the next one, Joaquin? This animal can swim. The shark can swim, yes. And look, the giraffe can walk. But whoa, what happens with the crab? The crab can swim, but also the crab can walk, right? So maybe we can put it here in the middle. And this is the Venn diagram. So when we use these graphic organizers, it is also a great way for categorical chunking and for them making it easier to recall the information afterwards, because they will, maybe some of them will remember the pictures. Some of them will remember when they were putting the photographs in the different parts of the diagram, etc., etc.
All right, so far we've given examples for the 3 techniques that were shown in this conference: recall, wait time, and chunking. Okay, and I would like to finish up in this before we get into questions. We have a few minutes for questions. Remember, about 80% of new learning is forgotten within 24 hours after lesson. That's a lot. So tomorrow is the earliest reliable time to confirm what and if it was really retained. Okay? And now we have a few minutes left for questions. So you might have some of them, and you probably chose the ones you want to answer, Francisca?
Okay, I think there were 3 questions, right? I have them here. The first one was, what happens when they don't want to answer because they are shy or it's difficult by Zoom? How can you motivate students? And I would like to say, would you like me to answer this one, Joaquin?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I would like to say that I have some tips for this. Tip number 1, make it a challenge, okay? When you ask them, when you challenge them, who can remember this? Or, okay, I'm going to show something, who can guess what it is? You're motivating them to participate. So, use of challenges. Second one, giving them time, wait time, okay? When we actually give them good wait time, they will also be more motivated, because it's not always the fastest student giving out the answers all the time. All of us may have the opportunity to say something because we respect wait time. That was tip number 2. Tip number 3, when you have extremely shy students, what works is connecting with them at the beginning, maybe in smaller groups of students, or even one-on-one. So, hey, Juanito, could you stay for a couple of minutes after the session, and just connecting, having a conversation? And after they feel more comfortable talking to a person on the screen, they will maybe do it more often with the bigger group, okay? So start from smaller groups, even one-on-one sessions, and then letting them see how they evolve until they are motivated to participate with the whole group. And tip number 4, the thinking routines, okay? So, well, the 3 routines that I talked about before, you can implement them either on Zoom, on online lessons, and also on offline lessons. The other question I read, Joaquin, was, does Realia have the same effect on online lessons and offline lessons? And the answer is no, but the answer is no, but, okay? No, because there are certain feelings or I'm going to say feelings. Maybe Joaquin can correct me and give more specific vocabulary about this. But there are certain things in the brain that activate when you touch the material, right? When you smell the material, when you feel or taste the material. So we can't compare those feelings or that input with only watching the teacher. But still, Realia will be useful to motivate students, because they will recognize the puppet. They will remember what happened with the puppet before. If you show the puppet more than once a week, they will get used to the puppet and they will start loving the puppet. So there will also be feelings involved. And I don't want to say, Joaquin, if you want, I mean, I don't know if you want to say something about this.
Yeah, 2 little things. What we call that is sensory register. We learned by sensing. So the moment I smell, the moment I touch, the moment I experiment it myself, I make the register enriching. That's why something Janina said yesterday is crucial. She said, go to the kitchen and find an apple, or tell mom to give you an apple, and you will experiment with the apple. So it's interesting, Francisca, to have teacher-parent meeting sometimes and say, this is the materials that you have at home, we will be using this week. So students can use the Realia they have at home. Parents are critical and a critical ally these days for distance learning. The younger the student, the more important the role of the parents. Yeah, they are the real co-teacher today is the parent or the caregiver at home. So they can use the Realia from home. Maybe not the same puppet, but a similar one they can get hold of. So we do not, I mean, they can still use what we call sensory register. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much. And then the third question I read was, is it okay to sing the same songs every class? If not, how many times should you repeat the songs? My personal experience here is that it is great to repeat the songs, because the more they will remember them. And also young students feel very happy and very motivated when they know things, and they will know the song if they have sung it before. So usually what happens is that they ask you, Miss, please, let's sing the song about the days of the week, please, because they know it, because they can dance to it, and they enjoy it, okay? So I definitely recommend singing the same song more than once. Maybe, I remember doing it, maybe the same song every week. And my students, I remember them asking me, please, can we sing it again? Almost every day, okay? I use music in all my lessons, all of them. We sang in every lesson, but of course I was making a variation on the songs. With a mindset of positive discipline, and I would also recommend asking students what songs they want to sing, okay? Because then you will be taking their preferences into consideration, and that's always a good factor for motivation. Do you want to say anything, Joaquin, about this?
Nope. People are asking for your Pinterest account, so make sure you write it down in the chat. While I remind people that they should definitely join us for the second conference. We are like 1 minute already past according to schedule. So we want to thank everybody for joining in for the first session, and remind you about the coming session, which is Jesse Urra, an expert in gamification. We will be learning about the difference between simply playing in class and how to gamify your teaching experience. Okay, so that's it. Remember, you have to do it through another link to join in again for the coming session. All right then, so see you in a few minutes.
See you in a few minutes.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.